Greetings everyone, this is Connor from Dagora TV, and in this video I'm talking more about the whole mod situation that's been going on in the gaming industry right now. I want to start off this video with another quick apology. As I said in my last video that I made, if you didn't see it, is that I'm actually away doing like a work placement internship thing for the next few weeks. So I'm having to make videos on my laptop again, and the audio may be a bit shitty because you can hear the fan in the background slightly. I've tried so much, I'm actually sat as far away as I can. The lead is at length to try not to get as much of the noise of the fan in here as possible, but it's creeping in a little bit, so I apologise about that, but we'll persevere. I'll try and edit out as much as I can, so hopefully you don't hear it as much. But anyway, let's get into this. I made a video, God, about a week ago now, maybe a little more than a week, where I talked about the overreaction to the whole Skyrim Creation Club thing. I mean, in my opinion, that everyone just went a bit too mental because it was something to go mental about. On the internet, of the subreddits and everything, when it was announced at the Bethesda press conference. But lots happened since then. We've had the whole situation with Rockstar and Take-Two about Open 4 for GTA 5 mods and stuff like that. And we've also had a bit more clarification by Pete Hines about what the Skyrim Creation Club is actually going to entail and how it differs from mods and stuff like that. And he comes up with actually some really good answers, I think, to kind of calm everyone down a little bit and make people kind of cool down. And I'm actually kind of seeing Skyrim Creation Club now was more of a good thing, because before I was in this position where I was kind of like, let's just wait and see until Skyrim Creation Club actually, or sorry, not Skyrim Creation Club, Bethesda Creation Club comes out, to see really what's going to be in there. Is it just going to be, you know, stolen mods and stuff like that? But as they've talked a little bit more about it and stuff like that, I'm starting to think, you know, a lot of it's more internally developed, but we'll get a bit more into that when I start talking about the Creation Club thing a little bit later on. But anyway, let's talk a little bit first about the whole Take-Two and Rockstar thing. Basically, Open 4 is basically it's a software for which users of GTA 5 are able to create mods and be able to, you know, distribute them out onto the internet for people to create and stuff. It's a modding creating platform, kind of like the creation software that there is out on Steam at the minute, where if you're, you know, for Bethesda fans on the channel, where, you know, anyone can go on it and make mods for Skyrim or Fallout 4 or whatever, and or Oblivion or Fallout 3, and be able to put them on various different sites, where it's Steam Workshop itself or Nexus or whatever it is. You know, you can make your own content from it. But recently, Take-Two actually shut down Open 4. It was a situation. Open 4 has actually been around since 2008, I believe. It's been a system that's been kind of wildly used, and, you know, there's been a bit of back and forth really throughout GTA 5 about mods on PC. When it comes down to the whole thing, I remember a few years ago when the game actually, GTA 5 finally came out on PC, where everyone went mental in the first few weeks. Everyone absolutely apeshit, you know, downloading all kinds of mods and everything, and impacting the online game. And Rockstar was kind of toying with the idea of not having mods in the game at all, and everyone was kind of like, no, we want mods. So they just restricted them to the single-player game. But the reason why they say that they've taken it down, they're taking down the Open 4 system this time to stop the creation of mods, is they're saying really that it's because a lot of the mods that are being created are actually, you know, having an impact on the multiplayer experience. That they, you know, it's enforcing hacking, and there's hacking mods and stuff like that. And there's a court case going on that Take-Two is going to actually be in court for a couple of months, fighting, saying that mods are actually fair use and all this stuff. But I think the whole thing with Open 4, that the reaction to it has kind of been, you know, I don't think they've been entirely truthful about the whole thing, and the internet's not buying it either. If it's going to be honest, it seems like they got into a little bit of trouble with the whole modern situation, then they decided to shut the whole thing down and everything, kind of disregarded the community in that aspect. And, you know, they're not liable for mods when it comes down to it. The modded creation, you know, they do a very good job to kind of stick to the single player campaign. You know, there's obviously going to be hackers that leak out onto the multiplayer system, but Rockstar don't get into legal battles for that. Like, there's always huge hacking problems when it comes down to the Call of Duties every year, and you never see, you know, Activision getting in issues for stuff like that. So it's very, very. It seems like they're kind of lying to the community. Rockstar, and specifically Take-Two, are as well. You know, Rockstar are definitely part of this as well. They're kind of not really, they're not exactly been a PC-friendly developer when it comes down to it. You know, like, personally, I'm a PC gamer. I think a lot of the people in my comment sections tend to be PC gamers as well. And, you know, Red Dead Redemption, we don't even know if that game's coming to PC. Red Dead Redemption 2, sorry, we don't even know if that game's coming to PC. No PC release date at all for that game. GTA 5, I think the PC release was actually two and a half years after it first originally came out on the 360 and the PS3. and then as well after it came out on the PS4 and Xbox One. So it's kind of, PC has always been a backwards thing for Rockstar, which is kind of ridiculous in 2017, because, you know, now PC gaming is such a big market. You know, it's not like it was 10 years ago, where, you know, it was so minuscule compared to the consoles. Like, it's still smaller, don't get me wrong, you know, the consoles do have a much bigger market when buying games, especially something as popular as Rockstar games. But it's a big market. They kind of like you kind of treat like second-hand citizens, if that makes sense. And this modding thing is kind of what's been going on with GTA 5 over the course of the years. It's kind of another thing about that, and which is a very, very different situation with what's been going on at Bethesda, to be honest with you. Because, you know, like Rockstar, Bethesda have, like I brought up, a creation software where we're able to create mods and modding software, the creation kit, where, you know, mods are able to make, like I said before. Kind of very similar to Open4 in that sense, but, you know, even with this whole thing that's come up, there's been no word saying that, you know, that's going to be taken down. Mods are going to remain free. They said that they tried dabbing into the paid mods thing a few years ago with Valve, which we discussed, where basically Valve approached Bethesda and to do a paid modding thing on the Steam Workshop, where anyone can put up paid mods and charge for them, and it was a shit show, absolute shit show. Basically, all the mods on the Steam Workshop were getting, there was no kind of set, like, there was no way to kind of judge with the value of the market price. There was ridiculous amounts of what people were charging for mods. You know, that there was one, like, kind of wave mod that was just charging, like, near enough, like, $27 just for, like, make look better waves and stuff like that. And then there was, you know, weapon kits that were, you know, charging, like, 50p's and stuff. It was kind of really ridiculous at where the pricing points were going across the whole thing. But we've got, on this, when it comes down to the Creation Club, this new thing that that Bethesda brought out for Skyrim and Fallout 4 is a thing where it's mainly internal development and paying external developers and the elite members of the community. So this is not everyone who's able to put their own creations on here. You know, it's people who are the top of the modders are getting invited to go to come for Bethesda and get paid, you know, to put stuff on here and stuff like that. And then it goes through a creation service, all the stuff that gets submitted, and, you know, anyone can apply to go on there, but it doesn't say that everyone's getting accepted. And judging by how Bethesda are making content for this, like looking at the video that they had of the cogwheel system, the internal developers, it looks like they're creating the grand bulk of the stuff that's going to be on the Bethesda Creation Club, and then external developers that are getting paid are going to be on there as well, like on a smaller cog in a smaller area, and then the tiny one is the elite members of the community. So it definitely seems like it's more of an in-house thing at Bethesda, and the people getting approached by the, you know, in the community to come across there are actually being treated in a way of developers, you know, kind of like external developers, if that makes sense. Which is very, very different to, like I say, it's going on in GTA, where they're, you know, pretty much stopping mods for a few months and stopping creation of them and stuff like that. Where, you know, mods that have already been created are able to be downloaded. There's always going to be a back market for mods, like there is for pretty much any game on PC, which is near enough impossible to stop unless it's an online game. You know, for single player games, it's pretty much, it's so easy, you know, just to avoid, you know, and kind of like, it's very hard to actually track down and kind of keep a hold of everyone that's doing on the game, because, you know, they can just basically go off the system. It's kind of the issue with pirated games as well. It's kind of hard to really track down who's pirating the games, and, you know, it's really hard to track down as well how many people are actually doing it and how they're doing it as well. Like, there was a situation, I believe, with Just Cause 3 and with Dragon Age, I think it was Dragon Age Inquisition actually, where the game wasn't actually able to be pirated for a couple of months because they put a lot of locks onto the game. They had a third-party company to come down and basically put a lot of security onto the coding and stuff to not be able to make people download it, which I thought was really a fascinating story. But anyway, that's besides the point. In regards to this, though, I do think that we are seeing two very different companies with very different attitudes to the community when it comes to player creation and stuff like that. You know, Bethesda's games, very successful in their own right. You know, like every single one of their last games since Morrowind has won Game of the Year. Some outlet, you know, like Skyrim, Fallout 3 and Oblivion and Fallout 4 won a hell of a lot of Game of the Year awards, you know, from various outlets around the internet and around, you know, magazines and publications, stuff like that, along with Morrowind as well. Forgot that one from the list. And same thing goes with Rockstar. You know, that a lot of their games, you know, are very, very successful. You know, GTA 5, one of the most successful games of all time. But I think the longevity of Bethesda Game Studios' games, the ones that the Creation Club is actually impacting, a lot of it's down, especially on PC, due to the player creation content, and Bethesda kind of acknowledge that a lot of the time. You know, they know that the modding community, where the idea of play the way you want to play, has been very successful to their games. You know, like it seems that after like the first month or couple of months after the release of the game, where people are pretty much done with it, they've done all the content, and same thing with the DLCs once they've played all through that stuff. It's the user-created content that's really keeping them going, like revitalizing it, like adding stuff like, you know, for Skyrim, the survival mode mod and stuff like that, and adding new quest mods and new locations and stuff like that, and crazy things you can do with the game, which adds a hell of a lot of value to the game. Which, you know, like in this scenario with Bethesda, where, you know, it kind of seems like they're trying to reward the elite members of the community for making so many mods for them, I think is, in my opinion, I think it's a good thing. You know, they're actually going out of the way to try and pay modders, and, you know, like they are creating more content for the game, which is going to be charged for, which is something that was actually very similarly done with Oblivion. You know, we had things like Horse Armor, Mayrune's Razor and stuff like that, and that kind of micro DLC from Bethesda back then. And then this stuff that's happening as well now, like we saw on the little brief video, which we don't know if that stuff's going to be on there. We don't know if it was just a joke. I'm guessing Dwarven Mudcrab is just like a joke to the community and stuff like that. But the stuff that we saw that on there is kind of similar to that kind of style content, yet people are kind of refusing to acknowledge that that's DLC, which is kind of rose up a kind of a question in my head, like, is it DLC? Like, there's a difference in the DLC content from something like Dragonborn and Hearthfire for Skyrim. You know, Hearthfire was the DLC where you could, you know, build your own home and stuff like that, and, you know, gather the materials and build it. And Dragon Ball was the full story like DLC, new location and stuff like that. You know, really, really major style DLC. You know, what they were bringing out to the people there. And then we've got, you know, it was the same thing with Oblivion, where we had, you know, the Knights of the Nine, and then we also had, you know, the Horse Armor stuff that went on. But they're both DLC. You know, one is obviously much more valuable and better than the other, but it's still DLC when it comes down to it. And then when it comes down to mods, you know, you've got, and, you know, something like Enderal, which completely transforms Skyrim into a completely different game, which you can get countless amounts of hours of. And also then you've got stuff that, you know, adds a follower to the game and stuff like that. Both of them are mods, but again, like, they've got more content into the other. So, like, when the internet says it's not DLC because it's not got content in there, and when it comes down to, you know, some of the stuff that hypothetically is getting put on there, like new weapon sets and stuff like that, it is still DLC. It's obviously much more valuable, and they've got more a price point to put on that. And also the fact that when it comes down to it, mods in Bethesda's games kind of ignore achievements. Achievements can't be activated when you've got mods in your game. When you've changed the game code, you can't get any achievements in the game. So the way you want to 100% Skyrim or get the Platinum Trophy or whatever, or if you're a PlayStation player, you've got to play the game vanilla. You can't add any mods to it. Whereas with this stuff on the Creation Club, you can. You know, you can add this stuff to the game, kind of, again, like DLC in a way, where you add it to it and get new weapon sets and stuff like that, and, you know, it seems you're not going to be getting, like, the crazy overpowered spells and stuff that's kind of restricted with the main balance of the game. You get all that stuff in there, and you can still get all the achievements of the game, which people kind of see like, yeah, that's pointless, you know, I don't care about achievements. I don't care about them either, to be honest with you. I think achievements are kind of pointless. But it does go to say that, you know, it's not acting in a way that a mod does. So when they're saying these aren't mods, when Bethesda are coming out and going these aren't mods, and everyone's going, oh, they're not mods that you pay, the mods that you pay for, but they're not mods, kind of thing. They're behaving more like DLC, if that makes sense. You know, kind of like more like the micro DLC, which I mentioned earlier, and getting the elite members of the community to come on there and get paid for that stuff as well, along with internal developers and external developers. I think that's a really good thing. I'm actually looking forward to seeing what stuff is going to be on here, which is going to be honest with you. And Bethesda have come out and said a couple of times now, a few times, that free mods are never going to go away. We've tried dabbling in that market to kind of put our footprint on it and trying to make a bit of money from it from ourselves and also for the modders on there, and it just doesn't work. Everyone just kind of repels against it. And it worked drastically wrong with things like Valve. The only game it's actually, I think, has done well with is the marketplace on StarCraft 2, if that had mods that get sold on there and get paid for on there, or add-ons to the game and stuff, do really well on there, and, you know, people are kind of happy to play that stuff. Whereas with the whole Skyrim thing, people were completely against it, and it goes back to the thing that I said in the previous video, where which I personally do believe, and I've had a little bit of debate with the comments section below, is that when it comes down to a lot of single-player mods, people don't want to pay for them. You know, people kind of, I feel like they get this entitlement to be free kind of thing, whereas, you know, with this whole new Skyrim thing, free mods are going to coexist with the Bethesda Creation Club. But then I've seen the argument that's come around from loads and loads of people saying that, well, what if, you know, these top-end modders that make a lot of mods for my favourite games, Skyrim and Fallout 4, which I love to download and love to toy around with in my game, are not going to make mods anymore, or not going to support the mods that they've created anymore, and just because they've been accepted to this Bethesda Creation Club, and they're going to start making mods for them. And the thing that I say for that is, like, they don't owe you a thing, you know, when it comes down to it. They're making free content for you. You haven't purchased anything from them. It's their own choice if they want to completely ignore what they made in the past and go to this Creation Club thing, so where they can earn a bit of money. That's completely their choice. You know, it's not for you to really get angry about when it comes down to that point, if they've got that platform to be made for them to get... for them to make a bit of money from it. Because when it comes down to it, modders for Skyrim and Fallout 4, unless they're making nudity mods or porn mods or whatever, are making no money whatsoever. Absolutely not a penny, not a scrap. And the reason for that is because I actually went back. I brought up a video last time that TotalBiscuit did when he spoke to the head of the Nexus mod site, the biggest mod site on the internet, Nexus, where, you know, I presume that, you know, many of the people watching this video now have downloaded mods from Nexus on PC, where they say for the mods on the Skyrim site, there is a donation button. For the Nexus site, there is a donation button on the individual mods you go on, where you can, you know, donate to the modder if you wish. And he actually got some statistics out and said that less than 0.1% of people that go onto that mod or downloads mods uses the donation tab. I mean, that tells you that the people who are saying, you know, like, if I could donate to these modders, I would donate to these modders. You know, I really want to, you know, if I'm giving them money, I want to get them to get 100% of the money what they're getting and stuff like that. I'm for supporting these creators and stuff like that. And that's kind of, you know, proved to be bullshit. And you know, I'll be the first one to say that, like I've said in a couple of videos now, that I'm for, you know, modders getting paid. And I think the best way to do it is to have a platform like this, like the Creation Club, where, you know, people... You know, it's much more easy to pay for them and stuff like that. It's kind of, you know, if you want to get that, you know, creation on there, that deep micro DLC on it, then you've got to pay for it with credits. You know, I'm for that because, you know, I think that modders who create these, you know, giant-sized companies, like I say, you know, I will, you know, gladly donate to you know, the people who, you know, are making the Beyond Skyrim mod and the Enduro mod and stuff like that. But, you know, like, for me, when it comes down to Skyrim, overall, when it comes down to it, I've probably downloaded over 1,000 mods in my lifetime for Skyrim. And how many of them have I actually donated to? 3. 3 mods in my entire life I've actually donated to. And that is absolutely... It's kind of insane when you think about it, the kind of small amount of, you know, things that I'm donated to. Whereas, you know, a lot of those mods, when it goes down to, they put a lot of work into those mods. And, you know, I was actually listening to another video with TotalBiscuit. I don't want to bring him up again, but he did another video about it. Where, you know, if I'd put both of those videos in the comments below, because, you know, he's far more knowledgeable about this than I am, you know, so he's a better voice to hear off of. But something he talks about in there is that he's actually creating a mod himself, and the average, the stuff that he's paying for at the minute for an hour of development time to create a mod is $50 an hour. $50 an hour. And the mod, one of the mods that he brought up in the video, had 1,700 hours of development time. So 1,700 hours times 50 is a hell of a lot of money, you know, a hell of a lot of money, and people aren't, you know, willing to, you know, to pay the money to be able to, you know, have a career when it comes down to it of an external developer, which is, in some ways, a little bit sad if you think about it. When you see the porno guys who are making nude mods and really freaky mods on Skyrim and stuff like that are getting a lot of money from the patrons accounts and stuff like that, and, you know, sex sells or something that's happened, you know, for countless of generations now. But it is just, you know, I'm happy to see Bethesda kind of sticking to the ground in a way and try and create a way where the top members of the community are able to get some money for it and for the creations that they're making, because in my opinion they deserve it. And, you know, mods are going to be a free thing. I'm never going to stop downloading free mods. People aren't going to stop downloading free mods. The word paid mods has become a really kind of nasty and kind of a term that is kind of been used as like a derogatory term, really, like paid mods. Like, what a disastrous thing, because I feel, again, people just feel that they're entitled to get free stuff, and it's just kind of ridiculous when it comes down to it at the end of the day, because, you know, you're not entitled to it. You know, if a modder, like, that argument kind of like it annoyed me a bit, which I brought up in the video earlier in the video, that You know, what if the modder that I enjoy downloading mods for stops making mods and goes over to make the stuff for it? And then I'll say, you know, like, that's his right. You know, he's got every right to do that. If he charged for mods before, say like if he was able to charge, you know, $5 a mod, currently $5 a mod, and then said, all right guys, I'm not continuing this anymore, I'm going to go make mods for this other guy, you know, on the Creation Club, and charge $10 a mod for it, you know, because he's able to do that on a new platform or stuff like that. Then you'd be able to argue, like, put your arms in the air and say, you know what, I paid for this, I deserve someone to kind of maintain this and stuff like that. I had to buy this personally. And then we'll have that argument when it comes down to it on the Creation Club, because Bethesda's they've got a curation policy for that thing, you know, and people, you know, always laugh about the polish of Bethesda's games. I always jab at it as well about how poor they are. But when it comes down to the DLCs of those games, like Far Harbor, like you know, the Nuka World, Dragonborn, I'm trying to think of the other one, not Hearthfire, Dawn Guard, that was it, for Skyrim and Fallout 4. When they come out, they worked. You know, there was barely any like bugs or any issues in the DLCs or crashes and stuff like that in comparison to the main game. The reason for that is because, you know, they've got to be able to tune the game down and kind of get on with it and focus a lot of man hours of it after release when the game is, and get it more fixable over time, because that's really what's going to happen. The more bug fixing that you put into a game, and if you keep doing it over and over and over and over and over, it's eventually going to get better and better and better. And that's what happens with the DLC. So now Fallout 4 and Skyrim are in a very, very, very much, you know, playable state. You know, like, there's not a lot of issues when it comes down to if you're playing the main games after all the bug fixes, whereas at launch, Fallout 4 was an absolute mess. You know, it was a joke at launch. So when it comes down to the curation for this, for the Creation Club, when they're getting mods submitted to them by, you know, the internal developers or external developers, they're able to see if they're broken or not and send them back and not release them on the platform. Because now that we're actually paying Bethesda and for the stuff on here, you know, they're liable, you know, to create a proper product, and they'll get a lot of shit, you know, if they're making broken mods or broken micro DLCs, or, you know, making stuff on there that is completely stolen from other mods and stuff like that. They've really got a creation team, which I think is very, very, very important, which is very different to the whole paid mods thing back with Valve a few years ago. And I think that's a very positive thing that they've got this curation thing going on. Like, I'm looking forward, like I say, to see what's going to be on there that's going to be adding overall to my game of Skyrim and Fallout 4. Because I wanted more official Bethesda content, and this is exactly what this is. Official Bethesda content is this. I'm looking forward to seeing what it's going to be going with. And Bethesda's attitude to modding, going back to the original point which I made about 10 minutes ago, you know, it is very, very different to the attitude that we've seen at Rockstar and Take-Two, where I can kind of understand and completely agree with you the next reaction to that. I actually don't think it's an overreaction to, you know, give the game, you know, less of a, you know, giving them negative reviews on Steam, going at them on the, you know, the forums, kind of criticising Rockstar and Take-Two a lot and stuff like that. I agree with, you know, I think they deserve a lot of shit for how they've reacted to this and how they've really brought it on, you know, just kind of shat on the community like this. I think it's not been a good thing at all, and I think it's very different to the whole Bethesda thing, where people have massively overreacted, because I think that as soon as they hear paid mods again, they just want to kind of feel out along with the community and get angry at something. And there's obviously some degree of elements of that here as well when it comes down to the whole Take-Two Rockstar scenario. But overall, I just think that when it comes down to the attitudes of a company, you know, like Bethesda, you know, not the complete cleanest company in the world, you know, they've done some shitty stuff in the past, you know, like the whole Horse Armor DLC thing that they did before they charged for it was kind of ridiculous. You know, the review copies system that they've got and stuff like that isn't a very good system, and is not a pro-consumer at all, and that's not a, you know, they do have a lot of stuff to the company that is not pro-consumer, it's very anti-consumer, and I've called them out on that before in these videos. I think, you know, a lot of the stuff that they've got is ridiculous. I'll maybe make a video about the review policy at a future date. But when it comes down to the player-created stuff, they have been, you know, very good for the consumer. And I'll say again, Rockstar hasn't been that. And, you know, like, there's a lot of people, you know, that are saying, you know, they won't play Rockstar's next game. But, you know, Rockstar's success for their games isn't like Bethesda's. You know, the longevity of their games, and particularly GTA 5, isn't like Bethesda's. Bethesda's on PC is down to their player creation stuff. With Rockstar and Take-Two, specifically Rockstar's games, it's more to do with, you know, the fact that there's a lot of content in those games that's infinitely replayable when it comes down to the online stuff, like races and stuff like that, and new heists that they add to the game. They're consistently supporting their online platform. And the games are so much more successful than Bethesda's because, you know, bigger names. Like GTA is a much bigger franchise than anything Bethesda's got, and they really got a really big hardcore fan base, huge hardcore fan base that plays their games on a regular basis. Like, I still jump into GTA every now and then. You know, I love GTA. I've actually not downloaded a single mod for GTA. That's not how I enjoy that game. You know, I enjoy that game by playing the story a few times. I played that story now. I'm currently on my 4th playthrough with the story of GTA 5 and jumping into online with my friends. You know, that's how I enjoy my game when it comes down to that. But that still doesn't mean that they should really punish the community like this. They should let them do what they want, because mods are, at the end of it, fair use. You know, like, it's not something that Rockstar get judged for. You know, they don't get rated by the USRB for mods, for play created content. You know, they get rated for the stuff that they officially put into their game. They're not officially supporting mods. They just create a platform for people to create their own stuff on. If people want to go crazy with it, then they go crazy with it. But, you know, I do, at the end of the day, truly believe that people, you know, who say, when it comes down to it, that they're not going to play another one of Rockstar's games because of this, is the kind of same thing that I brought up last video, where people just kind of just want to belong into a community and get angry about it. Because you know for a fact that when Red Dead comes on PC, people would jump on that straight away, day one. You know, I'll jump on it day one. You know, I'm not happy with this. I think that it's been ridiculous, and that, of course, I'm making a video on the internet, for Christ's sake, kind of calling them out about it. But when it comes down to the future releases, you know, Rockstar's games are kind of too good to be missed when it comes down to it. But I hope they, you know, they turn this around. I hope the backlash does help them. Whereas when it comes down to Bethesda, I think the opposite way. I think the backlash has been ridiculous. I hope Bethesda kind of stick to the guns, and they have done so far, which I've been happy about. There's been a big cooling down period on it, I think. I think people are starting to warm to the idea of it now, the Creation Club, and kind of a thing of, let's wait a month, let's wait till it comes out, and actually see what it's going to be like. But anyway, leave your comments below what you think about the whole Rockstar and Bethesda thing, when it comes down to the Creation Club and the whole Open 4 shutdown thing that's been going on recently. I'd love to see what you believe and love to hear what you think about it all, and I'll see you guys later. Goodbye.